Yo, what's up everyone? Kyrios here, and today we have the LINYE Deep Dive Stars and Rotation, and maybe more depending on how long this video actually goes. I know you guys are super excited. She is a great asset to any team, and a great asset especially if you're trying to build multiple teams, because it makes making those teams a lot easier, and Aberration isn't resisted by anything, so there's a lot to take into account there. But you guys know that we have some interesting results, so let's go ahead and kick off those results. If you guys can, hit that like and subscribe. I do appreciate it. Let's get started. All right, guys, I want to talk to you about some baselines and just some general topics here. Now, yes, we are testing LINYE from 0-star all the way to 6-star. And you get a lot of questions like, is 𝙀𝙓𝙋𝘼𝙉𝘿 6-star better than a 0-star LINYE? And from a stat stick perspective, it probably is, right? Is it good for an off DPS, right? You know, LINYE makes your rotation easier. That's something we still have to test, and that's something some of my results will kind of show here. All right, so let's set up a baseline. LINYE's weapon is going to be at 140, while the other two weapons that we're not going to use elemental synergy for are going to be essentially level 0. We're not going to do any matrices this rotation. We're going to save that for the matrix test. You know, I like to break this out into about 2 different videos because they get a little long-winded. So no matrices on any of these. And then we will test the damage. We'll test the skill hit. We'll test the passives. We'll test the ultimate. And then we'll test the alter damage on top of that to show you how much of an increase it is from star to star. So, but let's first start off with the rotation. Now for the rotation, we're going to test 3 different styles. We're going to test the left click spam, which is essentially just left clicking until you go through the whole rotation. Takes about 3 or 4 seconds. Then we're going to do the aerial attack spam, which is about the same thing, just in the air. You're just going to hit it the 5 times or 4 times or whatever until it starts the rotation again. Then we're going to do a left click hold rotation, which is left clicking 3 or 4 times and then holding before you get to that final attack pattern. Last but not least, we do have our left hold spam. Now, this one's a little hard to test. So what we're going to do on this one is, since the left click spam takes about 3 seconds, we're going to left hold spam for about 3 seconds, or about 3 of those flowers coming out. And that should give us the damage that we're kind of looking for, or the perspective of damage that we're kind of looking for. Of our fancy dancy spreadsheet. You know, we love spreadsheets in here, but I like to do napkin math. There's a lot better mathematicians out there, but since I just like having fun with the game, this is the best I can do. So if you see here, we have a left click spam, we have an aerial attack hold, we have the left click hold, and then we have the left hold spam, which is essentially 3 rotations of that. Now, we got about 4,700 damage on average for left click spam. Aerial attack was around 4,600 on average, which I would assume is about 4,700 on average. Can't talk. So both the left click spam and the aerial attack spam with no matrices, I mean, that's a wash in my book. Even though it says -2%, it's too close. The margins are too close that you can kind of void that out. I would consider that to be 0%. They're 1-to-1. Depending on, some hits are going to hit harder, some are going to hit less, right? Depending on your crit and stuff like that, right? You need to run this through a simulator. Left click hold gave us our worst results, and it just feels bad. I'm not a big fan of the left click hold. It just does not feel very well to me. But that's what it shows for us, about -19% from a left click spam. Now, the one that gets really interesting is the left click or the left hold spam. Now, once again, we did about 3 rotations of these because it takes about a second per flower to charge out there, and this is depending on stamina. So if you had a lot of stamina, and honestly, if you were to just left click hold spam and that whatever you were killing, maybe it's a boss in FC hard mode, just sat there, it's probably going to do a lot of damage. You can see 70% damage, but that's because that flower stays out there and continues to tick damage. A very interesting rotation. I don't know if I would do it because, once again, you're really not using LINYE to attack. You're using her to be an off-field DPS. So let's move on over to the stars. All right, now we come to the fun part, the star testing power. Now let's just set the baseline again real quick. Gear is going to stay the same. Weapons are going to stay level 1 except for LINYE's weapon. And then let's just talk about how I'm going to do this rotation. Now we do want to test the skill, we want to test the passive, and we want to test the discharge. So we're pretty much going to do that all on LINYE. So what we're going to do is that we'll start on LINYE, do a skill, swap to another weapon just to swap back to do a discharge, and just burn out auto attacks until her skill comes back off cooldown. Once again, auto attacks and attacking is not what we're looking for here. We're looking at mainly that passive damage, that discharge increased damage, and a few other things. So we're going to do a quick speed run of the stars that we tested, and I'll see you guys on the other side. The beep. All right, guys, so quickly just going through this, we have the 0-star through 6-star. We're really just looking at the attack damage really doesn't matter on these increases. That's really just pure power. What we're really looking at is the ultimate and the passive. That's what matters the most to us, because that's what the star upgrades really get you, right? So we have a baseline at the top. We won't really talk about that. Your 1-star, I do want to slightly talk about this, is that your 1-star now, your normal attacks are able to cleave. It's not really the easiest thing to test, but just realize that LINYE is able to hit, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 targets at the same time, as long as they're right next to each other. So that's a pretty big AoE increase that should be taken into consideration when you're clearing mobs or doing anything like that. Probably not going to help you in like FC hard mode, but a few other locations. But you can see we got about a 10% uptick from that. Now, the thing I do want to point out is that her 1-star does allow her night blooms. Yes, I call it night blooms. I'm just so used to the CN. Does increase her night blooms by 10% each explosion, up to 50%. Pretty good. And you can see the results here. And it reduces the spawn time down to 0.5 seconds. So you can see that we've doubled our damage in one single star based on passive. Now that remembers, you can hit the skill, you can dip off to another character, bam, wham, bam. Ultimate about the same, but that's just mainly because of stars. Now 2-star obviously is just increases to stats. We didn't really test that, but the 3-star is where I want to write home about here real quick. And then remember, we'll have our final thoughts at the end with our star breakthrough and if you should pull her right after this or right after the next segment. But that 3-star is where things just start going absolute bananas. We won't look at the attack damage, but look at that passive damage, up to 32,000. That's a 600% increase from the previous. And that's mainly due to the fact that her 3-star interval now goes down to, I believe, I'm trying to look it up at the same time while recording, goes down to 0.3 seconds. And her Moonlight Realm goes from 15 seconds to 20 seconds. Absolutely huge. The other thing I do want to say is the night blooms, they spawn in random locations, and now they attach to the enemy. You'll just see them get suction cupped onto the enemies, and it's absolutely amazing. Ultimate, nothing to write home there about, even though you see a 30% increase, but that's due to the stars. Let's talk about the 5-star real quick. The 5-star is where things really start taking off here. We start getting weapon charge on attack, pairs well with like Ruby's weapon charge and a bunch of other characters' weapon charge, Claudia, a bunch of others. We have even more damage, but that's due to stars. But then we get that ultimate increase, which is a 15% discharge increase, and that goes for everyone, absolutely everyone, as you'll see in the results down below when we test some others like Saki and a few others. Now we have our 6-star. Our 6-star is just the icing on the cake. 6-star is where you can get 2 Moonlight Realms. Now I know you have to charge it now compared to the CN, but man, it was charging so quickly because of how fast you can charge your ultimates. I was just pumping out double all the time. So you now get the double skill, and then you also get increased attack by 13%. And you can see, look at that, 2,000% increase in damage. And that's just passive damage. That's like if I was not to attack and just sit there and enjoy it, right? Ultimate damage about the same there too. So some pretty interesting results there. One thing I do want to point out, I think we're going to briefly touch about this. I did do a team comp test, which what this means is I tested Frost, Fire, Volt, and Physical at 6-star. I know a lot of people want us to test 𝙀𝙓𝙋𝘼𝙉𝘿 versus like 𝙀𝙀𝙓 6-star versus LINYE 1 or 0-star. I don't have a way to test that very effectively. Just note that if you have a 0-star LINYE and a 6-star 𝙀𝙀𝙓 and you're really good at juggling that, I'll talk about that in a little bit. It's probably still better. And you gotta think about the stat stick, right? That's a pretty good stat stick. But I do want to talk about is that what we did is that we used a team that had 𝙀𝙀𝙓 as a buffer, and then we would do double Frost, double Fire, double Volt, double Physical. So this should be like Saki plus Frigg, right? Just modifying that, and then we did this plus Cobalt, right? And I'll modify this as we go. But what I do want to point out is that with Lin in the party versus 𝙀𝙀𝙓 in the party, you really don't see the fluctuation in attack damage. Really not that big of a difference, at least from a 6-star perspective. This would probably be a bigger swing. Obviously 6-star 𝙀𝙀𝙓 because of the buff compared to a 0-star Lin. But pretty interesting results there. Skill about the same there as well. Don't look at this 55%. That's mainly because of Shiro, and Shiro is just every now and then. What I do want to point out is that what we did test is kind of the passive. And now there isn't a passive for 𝙀𝙀𝙓, I'd like to point out, except for when we were testing Saki, right? So you got that attack buff. But what I do want to point out is that you just get, look at this damage increase, right? 300%, 300,000, 300,000, 300,000, 350,000. That's just raw extra damage, guys. That's just raw extra damage. And then 6-star versus 6-star, that damage isn't made up in regular attacks, skill, or even in discharging. Now, the discharge, I'd like to point out with LINYE instead, you can see that massive 30% uptick, 20% uptick. So these are very... I need to do a lot more testing. I need to test out Claudia. I need to test out a bunch of other things. So I just wanted to show you guys that this is just a little bit of food for thought at the end. And I am testing a couple other teams. But as of right now, at least toe-to-toe, LINYE is winning at least star for star after 3-star. So let's go over to our final thoughts. Whew. Okay, guys, that was a very long video. I am so sorry. I guess I'm not sorry. You guys love it. I know you love it. I love it. And let me give you my final pull rating on her. Honestly, she's a pull across the board for me, no matter what, from a team composition building, meaning that you can build teams easier. If you want to build a fire team and a frost team, you only need 2 fire, 2 frost, and then LINYE can spread across them, right? Instead of needing 3 fire, 3 frost, right? So she does make team building easier. But is she better than maybe if you have a 6-star 𝙀𝙀𝙓 and you're really juggling that buff correctly? She's probably not. She's probably not. But is she a lot easier to juggle and just do good damage at low star? Absolutely. Absolutely. That's what our results say. Now, her break point from the numbers that we are seeing is 3-star. 3 stars when her passive damage just went through the roof that 𝙀𝙬𝙋𝘼𝙉 can't even catch up to that, right? So if you're a light spender, I would probably say you go to the 3-star LINYE, you shift into matrices, and then maybe you come back, you get 4-piece matrix, and then come back to A6. Now, we do have to do a matrix test. That is on the way. But that's all I've got. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hit me in the comments down below if you enjoyed it. I hope you did. I'll see you guys on the live streams. Peace out, and fist bump from me to you.